Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brush Sauce Theater Community Challenge. I'm
Oh,
here, Tyler Edlin, with Adam Duff.
welcome.
And this month's theme was mad scientist in the laboratory.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, yeah, we're getting concepts, we're getting illustrations, and we'll go through about 3 minutes and critique each one, just kind of based off our humble opinions. So, take it
Yes.
with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And we'll just go top to bottom. A few
Yeah.
things regarding these, if you're watching it on YouTube after the fact, that we're trying to do, and these are some good examples of them. Get your references and your initial sketches all on
Yeah.
one submission page, and keep your name in the title. That way, it creates less work for us, and we're getting a new format so we can see how you've referenced things and where you're putting your research in, because we'll definitely kind of tell the
Oh, yeah.
difference
Absolutely.
between
Yeah.
them.
It's hugely beneficial. Absolutely. All right.
All right, I'm gonna cut this section out. There's one. Okay. They're all here. I'll just edit that bit out. They're all here. Everyone's is here. I was double checking. Thought I missed one. So first up is Spinal Worms by John Galling.
Let's have a look at this.
So here we go.
Huh. Okay. Okay. First
It's got
impressions?
It's very creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Very creepy. I'm gonna probably say that a lot this week, but this reminds me of that American Horror Story show.
Yeah.
Sorry about the dogs. They're going out.
By the way, if just to say, if I look sleep deprived, it's because I'm sleep deprived, and there's a dog, so you're gonna have to put up with some distractions here. Yeah.
I think the fact that he did display the thumbnails and the value structure, it works on that level.
Yep. But I'm seeing that the value, the top right value structure that's there is a very good value structure, but that didn't necessarily translate successfully.
No, it changed entirely, actually,
Yeah.
here. This is dark on gray,
Yeah.
and this is uh, light on dark.
Yeah. And
Which, if you switch this to light, it would still work, but it definitely changes the feeling of it. So it's
yeah,
more like, this is how it is now.
right. Exactly. And from a set designer's perspective, there's a few little confusions. For instance, you look at from set design and from just the perspective you chose, it's interesting, but you have the mad scientist walking in through the door, and you see how the line of the hallway lines up with the line of the room.
Yep.
Made me think he's in the room with her,
And that's a
but
door?
there's just a light shining through a door.
Yep.
So it's playing with my brain. I'm not sure whether, it's a bit of an optical illusion. It's kind of interesting.
And
but I don't
it
think it's
seems
deliberate,
like
right?
you're quasi 3D savvy. You got some DAZ models in there for reference, which is great. Maybe take that one step further, import them to SketchUp or something, and box out your room.
Yeah.
So it's a little more lively, a little more tangible. You
Right.
have the very kind of generic going lines, kind of just arbitrarily going like this. Okay, that may suggest some perspective, but
Right.
then beyond this doorway here, things are completely fall apart and they flatten out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You step away from the square geometric forms and try to bring something organic. Taking into account, if you want to create a cold atmosphere, keep it very unstimulating. Don't try to bring too many organic elements into the scene, or it can make it start to feel too warm and welcoming. And this is clearly not the case.
The other main concern with this guy is kind of flat, graphically rendered,
Yeah.
and this character has a lot of light and form on it, and that's not translating in this at all. We have two entirely separate contrasting styles.
Yeah.
Like this guy, you would need to clearly get in there, picking his coat or picking whatever one way at a time, and particularly if the light is directly above him, show that because his shadow is below him, you can see that. But like have a, show that.
If he was, yeah, exactly. If he was, you look at
Get his
drop
coat in
shadow,
there.
then that would mean that the light's coming from the back, which would illuminate his head and his shoulders, most likely, maybe a bit of whatever he's holding, but his face would be in shadow. The front would be in shadow, we'd have light hitting here. And it would immediately create a nice sense of depth and drama in the piece.
As he currently is, he was flat against the light background as well.
Yeah,
So you didn't stick to your plan,
right.
which
And
can
your
be
plan
like,
was good. Your plan was good. It looks good up at the top right. Looks like that could translate in and of itself into a nice painting. Just translate that. Look at how you just planned your values and translate. You also have localized light, right? Where you have a face that's in shadow and the light's just hitting a part of the shoulder. That's very powerful. But then you translate it into the finished piece. It's just a flat, uniform lighting. Over
see, we get little lighting on him, and you can
yeah.
you design it out. How we doing on time, Adam?
We're almost hitting the 4-minute mark here.
Okay, we gotta go.
I
See,
just-
you design the light like how we want to perceive deep eye sockets, the top of his how, maybe like the brow,
yeah.
and the way the same we do it with the shoulder and stuff. Maybe we see a little light on his chest. This will all be in shadow,
Yeah.
and you create that mood and that feeling. But yeah,
Understand and capture that three-dimensional form with.
overall, great job.
Yeah, great job.
I like your idea.
Put into that too. Yeah.
And see, there was also one minor inconsistency where it doesn't even appear that she's on the floor. But I mean, I'm sure it is because you match it. But just the way the perspective grid's rendered looks a little wonky.
Yeah.
But yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
So now we have Pedro.
Esteves.
All right, Adam,
All right.
start the timer.
Let's do it. All right.
This is really cool.
Yeah.
Really creepy, really great skin tones, and even really great lighting. Your thumbnails are really great here.
Yeah. And you can see how the lighting has translated from those references and templates into the finished product. Now, if you zoom away, Tyler, for 2 seconds, just to show a little example.
And we look at this.
More of a thumb. Look at how the lighting is localized, right? Just like you did, just like our last artist showed with the lighting. When you translate that into that, look at how much of a dramatic pull it creates in the image. Lighting-wise, this is a huge, huge success. This really works.
Yeah,
Right?
it's very dramatic and very deep. At the same time, though, as a thumbnail, it also is coming off really flat. And you want to get a little bit of that volumetric type of lighting in there, a little bit of that eeriness to make things kind of pop a bit more.
Absolutely.
So, like, we can describe, see, this is all flat in here. This is for 3/4 of this image, not like that. I wanted to grab the brush. This is all flat as a brick. Like when we zoom out, this might as well just be a black square because it's all that's reading as it.
Yeah.
You could do subtle tricks and things to kind of push and pull little forms. Like if going in here, you can add depth either in front of him or behind him. Grab some of this eerie kind of blue lighting.
Yeah.
And the first way to do it would be to start kind of just masking it in so we can see the silhouette of the guy.
Right.
Maybe just like a little bit of that light kind of creeping in back there. The same light that's on the wall. Same with a lot of this.
Don't be afraid to cheat with your lighting too. Like it's a supply and demand thing. If you're looking, if there's an element in your scene that's invisible essentially because it's hidden in the dark, throw a little light on it from somewhere. You don't have to justify it because you don't know what's happening outside that frame. So you can just throw a little light in there. Your audience is not going to question, why is there a light there? They're just going to accept it and say, oh, there's a table. That's all they're going to react. But what you're doing is you're enhancing the scene. Oh, that's bringing a lot of nice atmosphere.
Yeah, it's just like that. If you play with game settings or even 3D settings and they have like volumetric lighting on things, it's like that. That's the trick we really want to push.
Yeah.
And there's various ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But just like getting it in there and making the scene come alive. Also, accenting him with some other color will also make it pop. If you want to go like a first cinematic look, you get like that eerie dark green, right? If this is the main light, the key light, and you start accenting these little forms on him, and this is a crude brush to do this, mind you, but let me just make a new layer. like if we have like a green light coming off camera here and it's just hitting part of the side and like maybe like a little bit of the face, things like this we can see like around the cranium and the ear and maybe like the side of the face.
I like that green too. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, you have that coming from off the camera there, and then you can take this and smudge it and you get it to blend with your guy.
Yeah.
It adds this whole other layer. I mean, you don't want to go something overly distracting, but something definitely that kind of adds to the eeriness of this character and setting. And this isn't necessarily the way to do this, but it's a one way to quickly illustrate what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That little just push to get a little push and pull for clarity and adding a little bit of narrative fun and pizzazz to it, since you've especially got this like the whole he's alive kind of old school.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, any closing statements?
No, it's pretty good. It just you need to play with the lighting a little bit. Do research a little bit more movie stills of a similar scene, and you'll see what I mean.
And when you're doing that, ask yourself, why is there a light there? And you'll be surprised to think there's no logical reason for there to be light hitting that object, yet it is, and you never even questioned it. Right? Mm-hmm. It's a very good lesson for us painters. Right? All
right, mad scientist. Mike Kaiser. Here we go. We have an up-close shot.
Nice. Reference photos too.
got the timer going.
Yeah, I got it going.
All right. Yeah, great thumbnails. Really great. You explored something different, a different shot in each one. Referenced your hand, the objects, object glowing, and yeah, now we have the development here, which is great too.
Mm.
Solid workflow.
Yep. And you pulled it through all the way to the final. You know, you really
Yep.
yeah. What I'm thinking here, you know what this is missing a little bit of? And this would make a big difference to your image, and it's very subtle. If you're not familiar with it yet, look up ambient occlusion. This is generally something a term used by 3D artists, but ambient occlusion is a lighting effect where
The
like
light goes
the
through.
light is almost there's almost no photons of light. You know, like between my hands is a black line. That's ambient occlusion, right? That would add a bunch of depth to this piece. It would add those deep nostrils in between the fingers and things like that. It would make a
Yep.
big difference because otherwise it kind of because we're not getting that dark crease between the lips, it's making it feel a little bit cartoony and flat, right? But just by adding that, you'd be amazed what a difference that makes. What else are you thinking, Tyler?
Subsurface scattering in terms of lighting techniques, like the light kind of showing through his hand, what it blooms around it really deep and
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know how to explain it. It's a tricky thing to illustrate, but when light goes through your hand, like if you shine a flashlight to it, it really brightens up and
Yeah.
saturates, kind of like what I'm
It's like
doing in
almost like
here.
it's like almost like looking at an X-ray of your hand, right? Especially when there's a translucency, the light actually can travel into and through your hand. So look at your hand, and it's almost like you can see through it. It's almost like getting it's essentially it's like a very shitty resolution X-ray. But if you
Yeah.
do that, you're gonna physically be able to see the shadow of your bone underneath your skin. It's kind of creepy, but that's giving you a good example of what Tyler's talking about, right?
And at the same time, even though this isn't necessarily overexposed, it's still kind of looking overexposed because of the way you shaded it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, seems like you took, and it's a monochromatic way, but
Yeah,
you basically took this value for the dark part of his skin and you went up like this for this
yeah,
part of the skin. See, it almost matched up exactly. You want to research some painters like Donato Gynacola or James Gurney
yeah.
and see how they handle the light temperatures and colors on their skin and quality aesthetics. Like this is not necessarily something you want to do just a lighter version of that, but you want to get in there and you know look at and get blues in there, get greens, all these subtle kind of pale colors
Mm.
that you can make his skin with, and you'll notice it'll just kind of come alive. It won't look quite as stiff and as synthetic
Yeah,
looking.
yeah, yeah.
Because the other issue, though, your outside lines are pretty good. The brushwork on the interior, you could go back and rework a bit.
Yeah.
Like the details all in here get airbrushed out. This is too soft. Your inner details are just too soft. Like Adam mentioned, you need some of those occlusion shadows in between the crevices. That'll sharpen things up again. And
Spectral highlights too. Reflected
yep,
reflected light is very important.
use a
Study that.
combination of hard and soft brushes in conjunction with texture and the smudge tool.
Yeah,
It's a constant give and take battle.
yeah,
Painting skin is one of the hardest things we could ever kind of tackle, specifically depending on the lighting.
yeah. Light. It's all about lighting, though, right? Really, because I don't know about you, Tyler, but as far as just the style, the composition, super fun, all of that. But the shortcoming here is your rendering of surfaces, taking into account what surface property. Skin's oily. There's a bit of a
Hmm.
circular highlight there, right? The shirt is cotton. It's going to be more matte and diffused. So on and study the properties of light and how they interact with different surfaces, right? And that's going to transform this painting. It's going to make it just jump off the page. You're going to see what a huge difference it makes.
Yeah,
Light should be your best friend for the next little while.
but great job and practice the anatomy too. The lip and the nose and stuff. Get some more photo reference on that if you
Yeah,
want to go back and revisit this.
absolutely. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful.
Mad Scientist by Julia. And yeah, they didn't know that they should have submitted or saved some thumbnails, but that's fine.
It's okay. It's fine.
We'll take a look at this. This is a more illustrative approach. This is
Yes,
cool.
which I like.
And definitely, yeah, it's definitely consistent within itself. This arm's feeling a bit way too long, though,
Yeah.
in terms of exaggeration.
Here's a little cartooning trip for you when it comes to, because that's my background, right? When you're looking at when you're doing a cartoon character, you're acting. It's a number one mistake cartoonists make is they think, well, since it's a cartoon, then referencing real life is not really going to do me any good. Always reference real life. And furthermore, the best thing you can do for posing, you notice you ever watch cartoonists, they always have a mirror on their desk or a big mirror next to the thing? Act it out. You'll never be able to pose anything well unless you actually physically get off your ass and feel it with your body, you know? And if this is a touching scene. It's this beautiful young child who's unfortunately impaled on a spike. Yes, okay, I admit that's a little dark. And then a woman who's showing compassion, a doctor woman who's, sorry about that, let me mute that, there's compassion, there's emotion. Get up and act it, feel it, and see what happens to the body, because her face has got tears and compassion. Her body is,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing going on in the body because you're trying to emote from here instead of physically getting up and doing it with your body. That's where you're going to get a real pose. That's where you're going to get that.
And I'm just adding color to the shadows. You have great color in these shadows, but even her coat is feeling like way too stiff.
Yeah.
Like you could start off like some of them are cool, and then you could add hints and traces of bounce light. Like if it's hitting part of the white, you can get back in there after doing like a layer of blue and going in there, doing a nice little soft pass like this. So if you compare to what we originally had, which was this gray, we've got this really deep, rich shadow color now.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Same with her hair. The hair needs a highlight. This is begging for a highlight, you know, and I'm not really good at this cartoony style kind of quality hair, but this direct overhead light, and absolutely would want to see some of that in there.
And the shadow, you know, she's going to have a part of her face, the head that's in shadow. Shadows inside the hair where it tucks behind the ears. That's always a dark area, and it helps accentuate the neck, right? Or shadow, as exactly as Tyler's doing now. Get that. Suggest there's a light source coming from the top. The top is lit, and there's a shadow. Now, if you're rendering and doing something more realistic, you're really going to render it out, right? But you can simplify that process by just having light, dark, and specular, and that's enough.
And I think it's vignetted fine and lit enough to make a very fine enough statement. Having that spotlight, though, to show that, you don't need to fit that in the camera, especially right in the center. It wasn't adding anything, so we removed that, and yeah, kind of just, you can have a light above it and not have it be in camera.
Yeah.
A second, like, go back after you can render a little bit of, you don't have to render texture or anything, but you know, the background needs probably like a little more love like this as well. It's just like a little too simple. It gives it like this unpolished look. So even if you look at some nice kind of cartoony style backgrounds for these, you can go back and add, you know, a fair little bit of a detail pass to like just, you know, not in a distracting way necessarily, but something to kind of just overall liven it up and, you know, show a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, about this piece, the cracks, the wood chips. Is it new wood? Is it old wood? You could just, in a very cartoony way, though, you can add one quick little detail pass on everything and boost the quality up.
Yeah.
But yeah, not bad though. Really cool. It's really disturbing.
It's disturbing. There's a visceral emotion going on there. It's pretty. It's a little jarring when we see a little kid with a spike in the back of his skull.
Yeah, you don't see that every day.
There's a compassion in there, and I like that emotion. I like the fact you captured compassion in there. So what do we got here?
Mad scientists.
Do we have a name?
Nope.
No! Well, then, nobody did it. And it's your fault for not putting it there. So, fart noise. Then put your name on it.
This is interesting. Got some sketches. People experimenting on animals making man-bats? Is that... That's what I'm gathering?
Yeah. By the way, when I do biochemistry, I dress like that. Just in case you were wondering, yeah, I totally do that too. Yeah.
She's got sex appeal.
That's what's up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that is just like that to make a statement or that's just your thing. I don't know.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's all good.
Listen,
I'm not here to judge.
95% 14-year-old males, they won't judge you for it.
Yeah, just keep in mind your target audience you want to be.
You've
got half the art community like, no, that's derogatory. That's not how scientists dress. And then you got the other half. They're like, yeah, that's super cool. But just keep in mind who you want to attract by making that kind of a statement with your character.
Now, okay, there's a few things going on here compositionally. Notice, if you look at your composition, notice how you've taken everything of importance and you've rammed it up against the side of the page. The girl's way over on the left. Then you have a partially hidden character on the right that's giving you a very sympathetic look. And then you have something way off in the distance. When you do that, when you hug this, you know when they talk about the rule of thirds? The rule of thirds is there to make sure you don't do that. Now, you can break the rules, but in this particular case, I think you broke it a bit too much.
This is all dead space, Adam.
And you shove it over to the end. It's basically saying there's nothing to look at, except for the girl, but she's in an awkwardly pushed over to the side,
Looking out the not now that you meant like looking out the frame.
Yeah.
That's bringing there's no flow. So the main thing I want you to take from this critique and what to work on for next time your next piece you work on, practice the composition.
Yes.
It's great to do these idea sketches, of course, to get your idea out, but then take this idea, do many thumbnails on the composition and arrangement of it. Because that is the weakest, by far the weakest part of this image.
Because as an illustration, there's a lot of successful things. Like the anatomy's not half bad. Her hands might be a little bit big, but she's wearing rubber gloves.
And rubber boots.
Choice of attire, take that one with a grain of salt. I mean, whatever. But that's actually not so bad. Your character design's pretty good. Even your creature design's cute. Composition, though, just the composition. And again, when it comes to lighting, study it. Actually turn on a light and look around and say, oh, okay, I've got light coming in through my window. How is that reflecting on the ground? What's going on? Because right now you've got lights up there.
Yeah,
but everything
there's no
illuminated, so
there's no sense of texture or form like on a lot of these. Like, is this tile? Is it? You could see like a very vague reflection on that, but it's not like it seems like you didn't commit to it 100%.
Yeah.
Get references of these labs, doctors' offices, science laboratories. There's a million ways you could reference this.
Yeah.
Get those lights in there.
Yeah.
There's probably darker areas in between it as well.
And like for instance, if we were looking at that, if this is real life, her back would be lit. Her face would be fairly in the dark. There might be a bit of reflected light off the wall, but that would be it. There would clearly be a lit and a dark side, and that's how you get that sense of three-dimensional.
Yeah, you have some shading there, but it's very flat shading.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep it up. Yeah, do more preparatory work, research. Getting some worn and damage on the walls is great, but you're also keep track of your edges. Like, we don't want to get too fuzzy from over airbrushing.
Yeah. And really focus, like Tyler had said, your real priority this week for the next piece is composition.
Composition.
And a bit of lighting too. Try to get some volume in your
Do lighting studies of movie stills, paintings, photography.
Yeah.
Study them.
Yeah. Very nice, though.
George is back. Hey, George.
Okay. All right. Oliveira.
Awesome stuff.
Yes. That name is a household name now to me. Jorge Oliveira. I love it.
You got a lot of cool ideas. See, this is what we're talking about. If you're going to reference and do a scene, get some of that cinematic lighting, the movie stills in here that capture that light, like this laboratory. This is exactly what you need to reference when you're doing these sort of scenes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why his scenes got the lighting.
You only see four or five shots there, but you can see how those 4 or 5 shots were. He probably researched about 600 shots to pick the perfect ones for his piece. You can see that because that translates very nicely into the finished product. So without research, you can scrap everything else because you're never going to get to any professional level if you're not researching your stuff properly. And it's a very common problem. People don't reference things enough, and you can see how that makes a big difference in this piece, right?
Yeah. I almost like this original composition better, assuming the character wouldn't be quite so against the bottom of the page.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere in this is a lot more built up. There's some things in this that I'm not feeling as much. Like this whole shape here. I have no idea what it is, and it's not adding anything to the piece. Remove it or hide it.
With what's behind it, I would put that in the shadow. Just have a
you don't need it.
One thing that's jumping out to me is, yes, it is a very industrial, concrete, metal, yada yada, but try to bring different, like one of the things that I would imagine Tyler doing in this piece, for instance, is adding a bit of a blue hue or some color accent in the background where the ladder and all those buildings are. Bring in some
right here, like in this one.
Yeah. You see how you have that back
coming in,
helps,
and it'll mask a lot of that information out that you don't need.
Break up your colors a little bit. You can have like kind of different colored lights coming from different areas. Just subtle accents of it, so you're not looking at gray, too much gray. It becomes boring. It becomes unstimulating.
I also like this perspective on the sketch a lot more than the final one.
Yeah.
It just looks a lot more flat, a little more staged. It doesn't feel quite as natural as if you were filming this shot in a movie and you were on set on a camera with a dolly. This just feels like, all right, we're in an audience watching a play in a theater, which is fine and that has its own merits, but it feels a little more stiff and synthetic as a result.
Yeah. Her body pose and the way you designed her looks really nice. Be careful with tangents. See how her hand is creating a very noticeable tangent with the armature? Be careful with that stuff. You want to liberate her and keep her isolated, keep her in an open negative space so that we spot her. And that puts importance on her too. A tangent will flatten and remove importance from a character, and she's the primary character.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring in these lights. Go crazy with it.
Yeah.
Like, use that atmosphere.
Yeah, there you go.
Push in. You can use this to push and pull, a lot of that detail out. Then obviously you could take it, show what we want to show, and eliminate what we don't need to. So in this case, and we don't necessarily need all that, but where you have cranes, arms, and tubes up there, instead of getting all that industrial detail with them, you can simply go with a darker color, and kind of clone stamp. Oops, like these wires here, you could just have them go back and fade into the shadow and things like that.
If you wonder why, you remember you got to cheat a little bit in art. And if you wonder, if you've ever asked yourself, why do cinematographers, when they're putting together a movie set, why don't they have that bloody smoke machine? Because you have to exaggerate depth in film, otherwise it becomes flat. And you physically cannot see light, the actual light itself, except for the source and what it's hitting. And by adding particles in the air, you're allowing that light to those particles to catch light, illuminating your atmosphere.
So I think,
right, and that's what Tyler's doing right here.
A lot of what we want to see, or what everyone should research, is basically volumetric lighting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never searched this directly. I'm not sure if we're gonna get good or bad examples.
You're gonna get porn.
But like these are the effects we're talking about. It's just the way the light kind of feels physically tangible and filters through the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Very prominent in this generation of games, since they can finally begin to kind of handle it well.
And it's a necessity if you're working in 3D. When you're rendering this, the first thing you learn is how to make a spotlight.
See, it's the way the light just kind of filters through here. We're not seeing this bright light go all the way through straight. I don't know what the heck I just did. Where did it go? We're not seeing white light kind of come through there like we do beams in an old kind of forest illustration, but it's blue and it's gradating and it looks physically tangible. We could stick our arm through that light and wave it through.
And it's insta-mood, right? It automatically adds texture and interest in your piece because you've got more eye stimulation going on there.
I wish I did have. I guess this is a good example. I wanted to find one with a scene with it on and with it off.
Yeah.
It this feels a lot more natural.
We are at 5.5 minutes, just to say,
I know. I broke off as a tangent to kind of just explain to everybody volume, since we keep referencing that term.
Subject, though. And everybody can benefit from.
And honestly, it's if you're painting by hand, it is a pain in the ass to get right. But if you do the right research and a lot of fiddling with it, you can get things looking right. Okay.
Really beautiful though, beautiful stuff. Here.
Anton.
Oh, we're going all cartoon in this one here.
Yeah, really cool designs. I like these. I wish this was a bit higher res, but not bad.
Is that Mac? Okay, yeah, it's a bit low because you can't. We want to come up closer and see. Details. Yeah.
So if it lets you, try doing a little bit higher res next time.
A little trick of the trade. The guy, what's his face from QBrush, just mentioned this in one of his recent videos. Always do double.
Mark Brunette.
Mark Brunette. Yeah. Always do double or triple the resolution that you would need it. So like if you know what's going to be for screen size, double that, and that way you're always going to get a sharp image.
Well, even with this, if it's about 1500 wide, that's more than enough to see for this purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I love these designs. These are fantastic, and you're really good draftsmen. And these are colored really well too. Like the other thing I really like about these is they're extremely consistent. Mm-hmm. That's another thing we've kind of looked at a lot this week, is your consistency across the board is really good. Maybe and if you want to keep working on presentation, maybe give them like a little floor to stand on, maybe like a little cast shadow underneath them. That wouldn't be a bad thing. There's that trick for doing cast shadows, and if anyone didn't know, I'll just kind of do it now. If we take the silhouette of the guy, Feel free to say anything, Adam, while I'm doing my
I'm just
selecting.
watching. Absolutely. Oh yeah. Well, I don't interrupt Tyler when he selects. This is a learning
I'm
experience.
focusing,
Focus,
channeling the
concentration.
selection.
I don't know.
So we copy paste this guy, right? Paste. And so we have this. We flip him, usually vertically.
You know what I would say? You know, we're since we've got cartoon language going on here. Christopher Hart, you know, he's very famous. He's got his own YouTube channel. He's been making books for cartooning. One of the things when I was a kid and I was studying his stuff, you know, he's good for kids, for young and old. And he was saying one of the things he says when it comes to character design, create your character and then blow him out. So you have the character, but then you go ape shit and you just exaggerate. You know, the big face and crazy glasses and the green
We get
hair.
a realistic
Don't,
shadow.
and then if need be, then take a little step back, but otherwise everything looks very kind of, it looks a little sterile. The poses, the character designs in the pose feels a bit timid. Don't be timid. This is a cartoon, man. This is what you're hired for. Like, have fun.
Yeah,
Don't
go exaggerate
see the better.
props,
Absolutely.
forms, gestures.
Sure,
Like,
absolutely.
these sketches are great. You have so much in here and a lot of references. Unfortunately, they're just hard to make out on this.
Yeah, yeah. Next time, just remember to use a higher resolution so we can get into
But
this nice
I
detail.
think, though, because your drawing, though, is really nice and everything's really consistent and presented, I think it's because you put your amount of research and preparatory sketches
Yeah,
that went into these, and that really reflects that.
yeah. Nice cleanup art, by the way. Nice cleanup line. It really translates nice in the final piece. It's far beyond what a lot of people would. A
Yeah,
lot of people avoid line.
these
You
are awesome, dude.
into,
A totally different take, and you
yeah,
just did a design sheet, which is perfectly fine. You can interpret, if for anyone's watching and hasn't entered these but wants to, you can interpret each challenge as a design or an illustration.
yeah.
We want to please both camps and get a variety.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Ah,
here we go. We'll go with John's piece. John is back and he's out
is
for
that a lot?
blood.
Oh,
Look how awesome this is. All right, you have everything. This is the poster child for awesome designs in terms of what we could look for, in terms of what to submit. Sketches, layouts, designs, illustrations. He's got it all.
hasn't John? Has he studied with you?
No, he hasn't.
Really? Surprised because it looks like it's got Tyler influence all over. He was my student, but I thought he
No, this
I
one's
see some
yours.
Tyler in there too for sure.
I, my students aren't even entering. They're so damn busy.
You bastard! You're burning them all out. Yeah.
Yeah.
You-
We make project lists and we start going in a 10 gear.
yeah,
A lot of imagery to make. This is awesome.
yeah, really beautiful.
I love these little layout sketches. These a page like this looks great in a portfolio if anyone didn't know. They really do. Add some color, some back value to these to make them pop.
A little bit. Yeah,
Go in and even add and colorize these even if it's in a flat color.
yeah.
It'll really make these pop and help your overall presentation.
Yeah, be careful with your neutrals. I mean, in terms of your lighting, you know, you have a lot of browns and all of that kind of stuff. Nice balance of this. You're working in lower saturations, which gives you a much more believable, natural feel. All of that spot on. Your lighting is nice. The only thing I would say is there's a lot of this dark, mid-dark going on, and you're losing forms a little bit.
It's the
Both
same thing.
examples, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing we've discussed a
Exactly.
lot this week. It's
Yeah.
the lack of that volumetric lighting that's flattening out a lot of the scene. Like if we have these awesome blue glowing tubes, one quick remedy for that, we could just grab the airbrush, I suppose, and we'll go grab some kind of cool deep green or deep blue. We start backsplashing him. We want to see a really strong rim light on him first of all, but
Yeah.
we want to see some of this light just
Yeah.
kind of glazing through a lot of this, and it will probably get a bit lighter. It's going to get a bit lighter at the source, so I'm cautiously trying to approach this, and we'll scale it back, of course, after. But yeah, something like that. And if we change the modes
Like
on these,
Okay.
you could start to really get that volumetric feel.
Yeah.
You use fill, you turn down fill like that, and then you can go back on something like this. We select the guy.
And bring him back out again. You know,
And I'm not even gonna erase it, but what I'm going to do this time is go to image adjustment levels, and we're gonna darken and add contrast to that. And yeah, we're just going to play with the sliders until we get some cool results that we like. So now we have a lot of that color that we just gradated onto him and is bleeding into the design, and
Oh,
it's helping it kind of feel a little bit alive. Like we have these occlusion shadows up in here. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. You can get in there outright, probably just delete some of that and get it to get the color to kind of pop on the form.
mm-hmm.
But this is just one solution in terms of like how you can do this and how you can handle that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the quick fix too. Like I do a lot of subtle
Right.
gradations on colors, many layers of that, and that's what gets the deep kind of rich colors into scenes.
Yeah. Oh, John, another thing you could look at is remember if because you have so many neutral earth tones going on, a little something special. Give your audience a little bit of eye candy in there, like the guy, for instance, who's turning towards his lab table, not the one on the bottom, the one on the top.
Hmm.
Have a little something there around there that's going to pull your eye. Maybe an odd color, a green, a deep green, or something that helps counterbalance an otherwise a little bit too neutral piece and adds a little bit of fun in there.
Yeah, like you can have like this green light source
Yeah.
behind him, like he's working on. He's got his natural light to light up his shop, but maybe like there's something kind of green behind him, and you can start that conversation
Hmm.
just by taking because Adam mentioned green and it's a fun color. We can go towards vivid light is not going to get that done.
No.
Did I select? Oh, I'm on a pin light layer.
Oh.
Okay.
I always do that.
Yeah, so we get a little bit of that light kind of coming from underneath the bench, and then you could start playing again with these types of modes and get this hidden that money shot, that color that's
You see how that
something behind him, like a little bit of green on the books.
it brings it all to life. I remember my old loft where I used to live. The walls were all blue, and it looked really cold and unwelcoming. And then I got these beautiful mahogany frames, just 3 frames. I went tuck tuck tuck, and the whole room made sense.
Yep.
A little accent can completely transform a piece.
I think that's what a lot of these darker pieces just kind of really need is a little bit of that accent and a little bit of volume. See, if we even just subdued this a lot, basically, but just added green and layered green and everything as like an accent color, not to make it look like matrixy, but just to give it a little bit of flavor color.
Yeah.
That just goes like a long way. So I always go a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of scale it back.
Yeah.
And look at, for you particular, John, look at Nathan Fox stuff. It's unity with variety. That's the key term here.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, now it's just like really starting to pop.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Awesome stuff, John.
Really, John. Beautiful stuff.
Bring in the thunder.
Gold star, Mr. Lau.
All right, we're back here, and we are on... This was the name on it. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Do you want to try it? Gigolo.
I'm not sure where the first name ends and the first one begins. Gigolas?
Yeah, I don't know. Thank you for submitting. Person that I cannot even attempt to pronounce your name.
I'm sorry. I'd have to practice that name a bit. It's a good one, though. When they're difficult.
So I like... Let's start with the good. I like the character. I like his pose. I like the creepiness of his freaking eyes. And I even like the setting. But again, a lot of this... like you have a lot of detail, and you did some research, and I get that you have a lot of different textures. You have bricks, you have carpeting, you have cement, you have wood, you have contraptions. The perspective, though, it's a little wonky and inconsistent. Like the way that the shift is, this is just not making much sense to me.
Yeah, it looks like a microphone in the foreground. I'm not sure what. It's a bottle sticking out. It almost looks like a cubist piece of art. I almost feel like I'm looking. There's a bit of Picasso in you going on.
Yeah, the way you handle things are very... They're interesting, a little different, because like there are parts of this that are textured and have implied lighting, and other parts that are very kind of flat and dry. So it's a weird kind of mix here. So depending on what you're going for, just take what we say here with a grain of salt. Because I usually come at this as a neutral type of card art illustration type of background. So if you're making more of an art statement with this, that's cool.
I mean, I don't think it was the reason why we're saying this is because I don't think it was deliberate that you were going for that kind of look, or maybe you did. I don't know, but it doesn't seem deliberate.
That's what we're
it's
saying.
Not far enough to feel deliberate. It feels just like there's certain
It's a really weird mid ground, right, Adam? You want to commit to one camp or the other at this point.
There's some. I have a feeling interesting stuff's going to be coming out of you as you keep moving forward, because you got a unique perspective on visuals.
Because see, it's like weird because this is what we were talking about. Back here is very dark, but then there's like no shadow underneath the
Yeah.
desk at
Fortunately, I
all.
think
And
there's the proportions are a little bit off too. Like the size of him and the chair next to that huge table, next to the huge bottle, next to there's the proportions, the scales of everything's been knocked off, which is giving us that odd kind of jarring feeling of
yeah,
going on,
there's a
right?
lot of. I'm not saying this to be mean, but the only thing consistent about it is its inconsistencies, is what I was talking about in terms of the style or the art aesthetic. Like, there's just like a lot going on, and it's hard to decipher what was intentional and what was
Yeah.
not.
Like yeah, if your style, which is very people have made, have become master painters and are world famous for mastering the art of inconsistency. It takes a certain type of abstract thought to pull that off. If you're going to do that,
Hmm.
make it very clear to your audience, I wanted to create a bizarre looking painting. If
Yeah.
that's your intention. If it's not, make sure it's clearly thought out in your perspective.
Yeah, go back to your fundamentals, do more thumbnails, show them
Yeah,
next time, show the drawing, break down the lighting, do your research
yeah,
and reference. But work on the drawing before you get
yeah,
to the painting. Work on the value before you get to the
absolutely, yeah,
color.
absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of, this is kind of entertaining looking at it. I can see from a technical
Yeah.
perspective, brush up on certain things, perspective, light, three-dimensional form, scale, comparison.
And it's interesting that you went with a square format
Yeah,
as well. Really interesting. Like that's an
yeah.
odd choice.
Technically, it could use some work, but imagine the imagination behind it is really
Really
good.
good.
Yeah, it's very unique. I have to say, I like.
Deranged Doctor
Oh, excellent.
Demon.
Right, the first thing I'm saying, the first thing I feel is excellent expression. You know, there's a
Yeah.
I know
He's got some of that
it's really,
lighting going on. See, he learned that from doing his research with
ah,
Saruman here.
Saruman.
Saru. Just hear the Lord of the Rings theme start beating. Bum, bum, bum. It's so I gotta watch
Yep,
that movie again.
yeah,
It's so
I'm
good.
overdue. It's been 3 weeks since I saw it.
I think you could get away with doing some kind of subtle detail in the background, and I definitely mean subtle because it does. We're flattening out a lot. You see, even on the Saruman picture here, we get clear delineations with the edges, which once we're beyond this point here, we lose all of
Well,
that.
the cinematographer,
So if it's front lit, like you have light apparently coming
yeah.
from here, we would definitely see
Well,
the
we'd see that
edges.
light would be more prominent, especially against such a dark background, right? That light would
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
like if you think about it, if you push that lighting and made it a bit brighter, then and you can imagine in this dark environment how that light would catch on his face across the face and create a very clear read of what's going on, and it would reflect in his eyes and make his eyes glow that little shinier red. The glasses would catch the light, his spectacles, and it would help
Yep.
all these things start to pop a bit more. Furthermore, it's so dark. You've left so much in the dark, and dark on partially less dark, a little bit more dark.
You,
We from a distance we can't even tell that there's a fairy in there. There's a lot of important. There's beautiful drawing. There's beautiful expression. Beautiful design. I've got to say, I love it. But your light is too. You're hiding too much, and it's just not allowing us to appreciate it.
this is weird too, though. I just noticed this. It seems like we have one horde that's coming into the forehead here, but then
It's
this
going.
horn, again, and this is because we can't see everything, is just like on the side of his head, which is
It's
that
the
see
Mickey
the
Mouse effect,
inconsistency with
right?
that.
Mickey Mouse's ears are always like this, whether he turns to the side or the front, right? There's a bit of that going on.
But yeah, I think just work on the colors, get a little bit of that, like the coat here. This is like a lot of good
Yeah.
stuff going on. Keep pushing that. Great unity. You want to keep creating that unity with
Yeah.
variety, like, and we want to see his skin just kind of
Yeah.
pop. If you take that and well, I like to start with something a little more brighter, then you can blend it
Hmm.
back, something like that. We have that main light hitting his head, and then what up here we take it and we desaturate it a bit, and then you have like some nice ambient lighting
Yeah.
up here that will hit on the top of his form. Top of that, like you have like these great colors in here, these subtle colors. Add a little bit more. Don't don't be too shy with it. You can add a little bit more blue in there, like a little bit of blues, a little bit of greens, maybe even dabs of desaturated yellows, and then you just can kind of
Yeah.
mix it, and you'll get really really
Yeah.
rich
It
colors
brings
in
more
there.
life into it. A little dabble do ya. And yes, that's a very good indication of my age. Just because most people are going to go, okay, and the older folks are going to go, ah, that's funny. It's
Awesome
actually before
stuff.
my time.
All right, we'll do Adrian.
Adrian.
Yo, Adrian,
Oh,
we
it's
did
Adrian
it.
with two A's, which by the way, Adrian,
Yeah.
I'm going to be the 17,000th person to scream, Adrian! Yes, okay, I'll shut up now. I know he's like, oh, yo.
Dude, I gotta go watch some Creed. It's on video now, and I loved that movie in the
Check this
theater.
out. There's a lot of.
This is really. It's the dude with the demons. Scythe is back.
Yeah.
Now I'm familiar with
Oh,
you.
you recognize the scythe?
We had demon weapons before that are very similar to this. It's got to be the same person. You can call me
This is
bullshit
pure.
if it's
Even it
not.
even evokes that authentic old school 1970s cartoons of the Demonata and Satan. You know,
Look at this. This
this
is
is pure
crazy.
Satan art we got going on right here.
I really like this one. I don't know.
Huh? Yeah.
Well, this is like just the trees and the background. I think just take it into the realm of a little bit too weird for me personally. This is like a little more simple and refined, and I like that about it.
You know what? I like them both. My eyes keep dragging to the bottom one. I think there's a dark, like,
Well, it's the
dark light. Yeah,
contrast.
yeah. Well,
It's a contrast, Adam. The contrast guy's got you.
resist. Yeah. No,
Resist.
I got some stuff going on here.
I think a little bit more research though next time. Don't just reference because these are great for like maybe the character or pose, but these two images, if you took something from them that I don't see, that's cool. But like I can't make any connection in terms of the illustrative context from this to your
That's
final
huge.
image. So maybe you're researching or referencing either not enough or the wrong
What
thing.
it should look like, by the way, just to give you guys an idea of when you're looking up reference. We were comparing it to the other reference we've seen from other artists, right? And those image references that you have on your image, if you're going to isolate it down to a short few, should almost imagine you're working in a production in a studio and you have a style guide. Like these two shots
And you want
define
to
where
and you
that
want to
is
pitch
supposed to
something to
go.
the art
So
director.
it's those two images are really going to say this is for anybody else looking at it going reference this to give you an idea of how to paint your stuff, right? It's a style guide. It's not just you don't just have a reference that's got a vial. No, it's actually kind of helping everybody else figure out what brought you to that point. You think of it more in that sense. Think I'm going to give this art to somebody else, and those images on the top right are going to dictate to somebody else how to do the same thing, right? It's a team
Yep.
thing. You got to think like studio wise. Um,
So what do you think about this one, Adam? We have a lot going on here. We have like some kind of night here. We have some bugs in here. We have,
I see a very.
and he's feeding the staff some of this green goo.
We're looking at an illustrator. This is really like.
And this is I could see like some kind of lab in this
Yeah.
circle for him
It's
here.
a.
There's a lot going on.
This is a style of art you don't see a lot of these days. You know, this is kind of stuff.
It's
Yeah.
psychedelic.
If you keep going, you've got like that Mad Magazine type of thought process in artwork. I love it. Technically, proportionately, like the hand. There's little details that
Yeah.
show a lack of
Anatomy.
going over it. You plan the overall image, but plan your pose a little bit more. Try to get those arms to be the right length. Like his upper arm is.
Yeah, because it's
and
weird
that fingers
if
are too long, and there's proportion errors that are kind of messing with you.
like where are the legs, right? If the waist
Yeah.
is here and we had like the torso, the knee about here, is like he in the ground, is he kneeling? Like where'd
Maybe
the
he's
legs
coming
go?
out. Maybe he's coming up.
Maybe he lost his shins in WW2.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could be.
And because then we got this guy here, which he's a lot smaller, but we could see his legs as stocky as this, as like a little dwarf as this dude is,
Yeah.
but he's cool. He's hanging out. But again, consistency.
Yeah. And make sure that your forms, if you have different elements, make sure that your forms are readable. So you got to be careful. Beware the dark monster. Dark on dark on dark on dark. All the areas that succeed are the ones where you have a nice clear contrast.
Like this is really rendered nice. You have like the light, and we have a lot of form going on here, and then like the rest of it's kind of a little flat.
It could use a little
we
reference just for
gotta move
certain
on.
details and like human proportions and stuff. But from an illustrator's perspective, you've got old school style and thought process there. That's kind of a lost art, and it's nice to see it. It's
All right, we got Joel.
let me get my timer here. So I'm going to make a match.
Why do we?
All right, we're good.
This is interesting. Like, very interesting thought process.
And it's about to
I
butcher
like
this poor
this.
bastard. Dang. Okay. First thing that pops out of me, we got this kind of body slash cadaver, something like that. Again, we're getting the same issue. The
Still,
body, which is a part of the story, the guy is about to hack him to pieces, is hugging the wall, hugging the frame, and it makes us look at it and go, I, I guess that's okay. There's a hand, but what's going? We get confused. We shouldn't be putting anything that important hugging the side of the page. That automatically makes it a secondary element, but it's the
your
center piece of this entire.
your idea is top tier, and your lighting is
Yeah,
pretty spot on. But the composition is
yeah.
a mess. To be polite about it, just spend more time working on the comps, even more so than this, because this is just filled with tangents. We have like one right here. We have one right here. We have this whole thing right here. This right here. And tangents aren't our friend
You
as
got to be
artists,
strict
as
about that
illustrators.
stuff.
We don't want them
Yeah.
in our scene.
Well, you can, but take into account that you if you're going to put a tangent into your painting, make sure it's got an actual purpose to either A, flatten something, B, remove importance, unisolate it, right? Let's say you have two characters next to each other, and one of them you want to make slightly more important than the other, but then maybe this one's got a little bit of a tangent on his left side, the other one doesn't. Your eye
And,
gravitates to a side. But most case scenario, you want to avoid it altogether. Yeah.
draw a perspective grid through that so you can kind of box out your
Yeah.
guy. Like, it's weird that we're seeing the top of his
Mm.
helmet here this high up. See, we're seeing the top
It's a
of that,
perspective conflict going on there, yeah.
and we see the
I didn't
bottom
even
of
spot
that,
that. Yeah.
which is like MC Escher style stuff, fucking with my mind. But yeah, draw your perspective grid, draw your character as simple squares and geometric kind of shapes in that perspective, so you could see in space where his legs are going to line up, where his shoulders and arms would fall, and then reposition his arm and get him in there, like just underlying drawing, more drawing.
Yeah.
That's all.
But with all that said, we're being tough on you with the technical things, but um,
Like, that is so badass. I'm not to be an entire negative
yeah.
Nancy. I love the story
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
do.
All right.
Comes back. Someone came to his door begging for
And
cigarettes.
did you
That just
hear my
happened.
answer?
You
I
don't
quit
smoke
back in
anymore.
October. High five, motherfucker.
Good for him.
What's up?
Intervention, bitch.
Well, all right.
I'm sorry.
Swan D.
Which one?
The one and only.
You're back. I'm
And
sorry.
with a hell of a piece of art too.
Yeah, this is fantastic. He's got the volumetric lighting kind of
Yeah.
going on back there. He's using those purples to accent
Yeah.
everything.
There-
That's what we were
there-
talking about with
This
John's
is-
piece.
Okay. There's something to be learned from Antoine's piece here. Notice we do not question for a second who's important,
What is happening?
where to look, what that person's thinking. Look at the expression, look at the pose. Everything is very clearly dictating. She's a mad scientist. We can see her eyes. We can see
Yeah, a little hint of her eye there, and that
Yeah.
grin on her face.
It's clearly thought out. The pose, there's a nice silhouette. The pose is open. She's not doing it here. She's doing it here so we can read the silhouette well. We can clearly, maybe we could stand to see a little bit more visual pull, a little bit more light on that character in the background. But the temperature contrast is good. The rendering here was well thought out and beautifully rendered. Proportions are great. You can tell that Antoine referenced this character. He saw an image, so all those proportions and the pose and the angles and perspective all look good.
Yep, it's worked out.
And from a set designer's perspective, how he's populated the scene with a lot to make it visually warm and welcoming. This is, in my opinion, an extremely successful piece of art. Very little to critique.
Yeah, very little to critique. There's what I was going to say. Like, even though her body is facing outwards, it's the head is keeping us in and connected. So keep that in mind to everybody. I'd like to see a little more of that color accent going on in the. I think my brush is broke. There it is. It's back. A little more of that color in the background, maybe hitting or illuminating some of that shoulder. Maybe introduce a slight hint of blue into it as well. You can get that just like a little back there. little back there, maybe like a little on the
Yeah.
head like that. Just like we gently kind of caress it around
Okay, creeping me
the
out,
head
Tyler.
form.
Just gently.
Just
Making
gently.
little tiny little
Just
circular
gently.
movements like Bob Ross would do. And go, dude, stop that. You know, you're making my butthole pucker up. Don't do that.
Just bring me some cookies while I
Yeah.
shade your
Well,
hair.
we just rub it in. I was I'm sorry, I'm having too much fun. Be careful with that. One of the things that I just spotted too is the hand that's holding the needle. Be careful with those pinkies. The fingers are a little bit short. You got a bit of it. Looks like a bit of that. The other hand is perfect, but that one, this awkward foreshortening of the knuckle. Be careful with that because it's making that pinky look like she's.
Adam is the authoritative anatomy
That,
police. He
oh,
will get you.
I will make you pay.
See, look at this guy pop now, just getting like a little bit more blue on that guy, and also getting like we see the corner of the
Yeah.
shelf here. Bring like a hint of this color up into that as well. Like all these little subtle touches that point us down to the character.
Yeah, that's actually.
It's really just nitpicking here, because overall it's fantastic.
I'm really thrilled about this piece of art. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Great reference too. So I'm happy we didn't miss it because as it turns out, this is our favorite piece this month. That and this one and I think John's. Yeah. We love both yours the most.
We couldn't pick a favorite in that regard.
We couldn't.
So we said, Tyler, should we just choose two? And we went, yeah, cool. It was kind of a no-brainer. Both of them are extremely very solid pieces of art. Yeah, hugely impressive.
And you're both growing immensely, really quickly. We've seen it over the last year or so that we've been doing these now.
Yeah. Well, the proof is in the pudding. Just how much time and energy they invest into growing it. It's wonderful stuff. Absolutely.
So everyone, thank you for watching and participating. This was a pleasure for us.
Much pleasure.
Check the events page in the community forums for the update on the next challenge. I usually post some random ideas or themes, and then everybody votes on them, and that's how they're decided. And remember to put your name and present sketches and research in them from now on. That'll be great for everybody. But Adam and I both have mentorships. They're getting pretty filled for the years. Might be filled.
I just filled up. I'm going to be opening up in late June. I'm going to have some openings coming in, but
and I have openings mid-July. If anyone's interested, you can check our emails. There will be a link after the video. But let us know how you think of the contest. If you have any ideas for the next one, leave comments below. That'll be great.
Did you say July? I meant August. I'm more popular than Tyler, so I meant August. No, I'm kidding. I'm June. He's July. Yeah, damn it.
Adam.
Really? Oh, thank you so much. And to your wonderful family and children as well.
Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.